about electric gauchos, or?
We probably want to start by telling a little history about, maybe building on what Alex just talked about, the fact that we've been playing together for 23 years, 24 years.
Yeah.
We met in Argentina, or was it Grosterschau?
Mm-hmm. No, Argentina.
Argentina first. 1995. I was down working with a Guitarcraft spin-off group called Los Gauchos Alemanes, which, what the hell does that mean?
Los Gauchos Alemanes. Gaucho is the Argentinian cowboy, and Alemanes is the Spanish denomination for German people. And I think the first name that came out was Les Gauchos Allemands.
Ah, the French.
The French version.
Here it is.
And Los Gauchos Alemanes were a bunch of German immigrants in south of Argentina, like 1880 something, last century. And so Argentinian people were called El Gaucho Alemán, gringo, right? Mm-hmm. So Los Gauchos Alemanes were this pack of insane people.
Very old people also.
Old?
Were they old?
Well, from the 1800s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool, so what happened?
So
this group spun off out of the Argentina group in the mid-90s?
Well, actually it spun out of initially the original early days of Guitarcraft. In 1992, everyone was essentially sent home to do application and assimilation of what we'd learned for the last 7 years. And so Martin Schutke, from the very early days of Guitarcraft, went off to Germany, bought a house in Grosterschau, and a bunch of us went there to work and continue playing together. And the original Gauchos Alemanes was formed there with Hernan Nunez, Fernando Kawasaki, and Martin Schutke. And I visited a couple summers in a row, and some Argentinians came up to visit as well. And it was clear that Argentina was going to become the next center of gravity for guitar work. So I started commuting down to Argentina and went down to a level 1 course there at a place called Gandara, which is outside of Buenos Aires.
Yes,
somewhere.
like a few miles south into the Pampa.
And so the Gauchos, we took our feeble repertoire into Argentina and met some incredible players who then changed the expectation and the level of our playing. And some collaborations began, and we met and hit it off musically, and did a little spin-off after Los Gauchos Alemanes played for a couple years. I really wanted to play with a drummer. This music we were writing and all of the stuff we were doing, to me, was missing a rhythmic element that I was really hungry to play with a drummer. So Fernando Kawasaki had been playing with a well-known Argentinian drummer named Fernando Samalea. And so we got together with Fernando Kawasaki, Martin Schutke, and Fernando Samalea. I think we went into a studio for a few days. We wrote some...
We went first to Mendoza on the writing project.
Yeah, we did some writing and maybe a show or two at Valentina's dance studio. And some repertoire emerged, and we recorded some stuff in Argentina, and then a subset came to Seattle, and we did a live show in Seattle called Glob Mapalooza in 1997 at the Broadway Performance Hall with the California Guitar Trio, Trey Gunn, and Tony Jabal. And we recorded that and then smushed together a CD that looks like this, that includes live tracks from Buenos Aires and from Seattle. A famous show at the Bowen Hotel, where I think the encore was a version of Fracture, wasn't it?
Yes.
A scary version of Fracture.
Scarier.
Well, they're all scary, as you know, Anthony.
We were also scared ourselves.
Yeah, we were scared.
Everyone was scared.
Yeah. So we have a history going back to 1997, but last year I went back to Buenos Aires twice, and we did a show at, what is the arts center called?
Usina del Arte.
Usina del Arte. We did a big show backed by 30-something acoustic guitarists as well, and we did an electric gaucho show with Fernando Kabasaki, Fernando Semele on drums, and Nati, can I pronounce her last
Cabrera.
name? Cabrera,
Yes.
on bass, and Horacio Pozo, who was also a member of Big Time Trio, which is another Guitarcraft spin-off band. I think of them as the California Guitar Trio of South America. And did a big show, and we actually recorded that as well, and then released a CD of that show as well. That includes some odd cover songs that you don't hear very often, including a version of Inductive Resonance, which is an old League of Gentlemen piece.
Tough song.
Hepta para 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 para. How do you pronounce it? There's an old League of Gentlemen song with an esoteric title, which I'll leave it to the reader to look up and pronounce.
Yeah.
You want to attempt it?
Hepta para Parshinov.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Daisy, you want to give it a shot?
Yeah.
Close. Okay. So we have a long history of working together, writing together, improvising, playing live. And when I was putting together a plan for this next year, I thought with a very open mind, who would I love to bring to Seattle to energize some of the work that's going on here? And 3 or 4 names came to mind, and the top of the list was Alex, building on our long history of work and play together. And Martin Digiri of the Big Time Trio is also here this week. And we're essentially continuing. We're not just picking up again, but we're continuing the work of multiple decades. What are we missing?
Don't you have a box set?
Oh yeah, there is also a 9 CD box set based upon some other improvised recordings we did a couple years ago.
That was just electric gauchos, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
We brought, although there were a few guests as well, we brought a group to Seattle to improvise in the studio for 4.5 days. And of that 4.5 days, essentially 8 CDs worth of material came out of it, and it's ludicrous. But again, I don't necessarily do music projects based upon what an audience needs or expects, or what a label needs or expects. I tend to follow my instincts about where the music is going, or what collaborations might bring if you invite two people who have some investment in their instrument into a room together. It's like having an interesting conversation. And so I'm very interested in capturing the authentic live conversations of musicians who've essentially given their lives to their work.
Alex, how would you describe the Electric Gauchos music?
Now?
Yeah.
It's a trick question.
Yeah. Well, it's instrumental guitar music.
Do you explore various genres?
All the time, only.
Yeah.
At the same time, so I would say.
And what is coming next for Electric Gauchos?
Well. I think my feeling is we're just in a point where my sense, my personal egoistic sense, is we came to a point where it will be great to throwing a writing period of time, generating a pool of ideas. Well, that's what I see for the next, say, half year,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Alex, I'll speak for him a little bit, but Alex has a series of pieces brewing, loosely called Particles, with a number of evolutions, and we've done a little collaboration on a couple of them, just a tiny amount. They're massive and difficult and probably a little bit weird.
Yeah, definitely weird.
But there's a seed of something brewing, I think, in the sort of the new writing Alex has been doing. And there's no shortage of potential in the members' writing skills and even, I would say, performance skills. But I think the next period may actually be energized by having a new repertoire. And there's little seeds of that already brewing. And I spoke to Fernando Kawasaki a couple weeks ago. He and Fernando Samalea and Argentinian singer-songwriter that we played with last October, Marina Fajes, can I pronounce that correct?
Perfect.
There's some aspiration to bring this configuration to Seattle as well, maybe in the next 6 to 12 months.
As a matter of practicality, if someone were to want to hear this music, purchase it, where would they go? Is it available in all the normal channels? Or?
Generally, yeah. If you just search Electric Gauchos in iTunes or Spotify or CD Baby or Groove Music, most of our stuff is out there, including the 9 CD box set. 8 of the 9 CDs are on most of the big services. And you could also just go to steveball.com, WAC-EG, which has nice, fairly high quality, playable previews of the box set if you want to get a glimpse of what 81 tracks of mostly improvised music sounds like. And it give you a little sense of what we do.
Cool.
It's really hard to describe. In fact, all the Particles work you've been doing, Alex, is that in OST or NST? I've even lost track.
All OST.
All OST? So you'd have to use one of Sophie's guitars if you're going to give a glimpse of what that stuff is.
Maybe later.
Maybe later. Okay.
Cool. Anything else you want to say about Electric Gauchos?
I just want to make sure that we show off the historical photos that were taken literally 20 years ago. This was almost our 20-year anniversary.
Yeah.
This is from a photo shoot that happened at the rehearsal studio where I used to share a space with Bill Rieflin and Chris Novoselic, and Alex came to visit in 1997 with Martin Schutke, one of the original Los Gauchos Alemanes members. And Ingrid Pape took this photo, and you can't quite see it, but it's an old iconic sort of Seattle grunge rehearsal studio on Western Avenue. And we haven't changed a bit. If I actually look at the picture,
Not at all.
it feels like yesterday. And there's another picture from that same time frame taken in Mendoza, Argentina, with the full Green Thumb Ensemble, which was a group that came together to write and record and play some songs. And this includes, there's young Alex right up front, Martin Diaguirre, who's upstairs sleeping right now, and some poor long-haired dude who looks like he just
Came out of the
landed.
Matrix.
Exactly. And there's Horacio Pozo, also in the most recent Electric Gauchos, and also a member of Big Time Trio with Martin Diaguirre. And Fernando Kawasaki, Schutke, some famous people here.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Hope to see you live somewhere soon. Daisy, any last words? Well, at least we got some dog in the shot.
Super. I think it's great that she joined. No?